Now can you hear me?
There you are.
Do I sound okay?
Yes, you do.
How about now? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Money Smart. Oh my gosh, you sound like a game show host. And I do.
Oh God.
Poor, poor Judy. She has to tolerate all these other people and then me. She's all good. No, I watch me just mute myself.
Yeah, I need to get some water bottles again. I'll need to go get some water bottles or something.
Hi, how's it going?
Okay, how's it going with you?
We're in the middle of a nap.
Nice.
Yes, I wrestled down. So thank y'all for stepping on up, taking care of Miss Rebecca.
What, Lori? Were you expecting something different? You got Judy on this mission.
You're all lounged back in a recliner. This is good stuff.
And aren't you off today?
I'm off every day, but I happen to not be in the office today.
That's it. She knows she's cutting out, right? Maybe she doesn't. It's okay too.
Use some time.
Yeah,
So you're just
all
bouncing
good.
back and forth, huh? Brett,
Yep.
Just a little bit.
Judy keeping you in line?
Yeah, are you kidding? We already put up your sign too. You're gonna love it.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. You just whipped it right on up there, huh?
Not exactly. She made me take it down. She said, "No, we're gonna wait on Lori's approval to make sure it's exactly in the right spot." And I said, "You."
Y'all put it out there in the hall, right?
Yeah, something like that. Something like
You
that.
know what? Wherever it ends up, it's perfect. It is perfect. Oh, I'm not going to show my face.
So good.
Well,
Well, you got
good.
Henry to deal with anyway, you know. You could always put him up there and then you could just speak, but make it look like it's Henry that's talking. That'd be fun.
He's not saying a thing now. Can y'all see him? No.
Yeah.
Get one of those little picture backgrounds like some people do. You know what I'm saying?
He's not saying a word.
Is he
Oh
out?
yeah, he's laying there, isn't he?
He's
And
out.
look at him. He
Sleep.
is fast asleep.
Look at that. There's nothing more precious than a sleeping ball of energy.
Uh,
I'm gonna mute myself so I don't wake him up.
Rested himself. Oh, when he's down, he's down. That's good. I'm not getting good reception, so y'all probably just have to handle it, which I know y'all would.
Yep, we got it.
Yeah, well, appreciate y'all. I do like to hear her series.
Yeah, we're
I wanna
losing you.
watch it after it's recorded because I like her series. Look at that. Look at that. Money start. Business start. So our website, I did it wrong. I'm always gonna update it.
And keep everybody on schedule.
I'm thinking that they are recording it.
Yep, I'm just checking right now to make sure. Okay. Are you guys ready? Yeah, here we go. So the people will be coming in, but I'd like to go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me okay?
Perfect.
Glad to hear it. As we're coming back for part 2 of Money Smart, Startup Business Part 2. And this is going to be a really good time today. I'm Brett Augustine, the Recovery Business Advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. We are a leading provider of assistance for small businesses, and we are grant funded, which allows us to offer this particular webinar and many others just like it at no cost to you, as well as many other services. Money Smart, Startup Business Part 2 coming up, of course, with the one and only Miss Rebecca Schultz. And if you would please leave your questions and in the chat room, and we'll try to get to those as she has pauses throughout, or if at the very end, in fact, she may ask you to go ahead and unmute your mic and feel free to do so, or put your question in the chat box so that we can ask her and get your questions answered. I'm sure she'll have them. If you don't know Miss Rebecca, she is the founder and executive loan consultant of Cinder Block Funding. And she is absolutely one of the best presenters we have when it comes to money in general. And she helps us in many, many different ways. So if you would, please welcome Miss Rebecca Schultz.
All right, thank you, Brett. And just remember, guys, this is kind of informal. I think about this as that group consulting, like that group therapy. We're all in this together. We will figure it out. And so let me get the presentation up and going for today. Let's get going. And I definitely love being able to, um, talk as we are live going through this. Okay, so
Okay.
open questions, you can unmute yourself. Let's have a good conversation. So I am Rebecca Schultz. You guys know me from last time. We're going to continue the conversation around helping your startup really get smart around money, right? Understand the numbers a little bit better and make sure that you are, at the end of the day, profitable. Everybody wants to be profitable. All right. So again, the North Texas SBDC has brought us in to provide this type of benefit. We're looking to support business owners that are wanting to grow, right? That need this type of assistance to access to capital and financial acumen. All right, like anything else, any of my other presentations, I always like to start with something funny or words of advice. And I felt like this little saying was perfect. All right, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Because at the onstart of a journey, building your business, it is definitely 1,000 miles, right? There's so much that has to be accomplished and done and thought through. And it really is a very long journey for a lot of us. But again, all things are possible when you take it one step at a time. So just remember that. We'll come back to that little saying shortly. In session 2, the conversation changes from what you're trying to build to where you're trying to go. Each one of us entrepreneurs has, again, remember that Netflix movie in our mind, right? We have an idea of what we're trying to build, but ultimately what that vision is. Where are you going and how are you going to get there, right? That's what we're going to be tackling today. So remember, if you're making notes from our conversation, this is the question that you're trying to answer in today's section. All right, so I always like to break that down into learning objectives. So out of today's training, I want you guys to understand the differences between activities and milestones in your business. That is how we're going to start to break down this financial conversation, activities and milestones. Then I want you to be able to identify how activities and milestones support your company's mission and vision. You heard that correct. We're talking about mission and vision. And each one of us builds a business, right, because they've got some mission or vision they're trying to accomplish. Well, it would behoove us, right, to keep that mission and vision in mind as we're trying to understand the money side of it and ultimately what we're trying to accomplish or where we're trying to get to, right? So I'm going to connect those two in thought and mind, and more importantly in energy, right? Because oftentimes it's not just us building a business, it's us doing this work and bringing other key players, whether that be employees or third party contractors, right? Into the conversation, even investors into the conversation to help us build. And so this conversation's around communication. And then we're going to explore how financial dashboards support leadership. Now, I joked with you last week that that's not the last time you're going to hear about certain conversations, right? Financial dashboards follows us. And we're going to talk even more about it next week in our third session. We'll actually get into the nitty gritty, but I'm going to start to introduce the dashboards to you this week so you can kind of get your head around how that connects to this whole mission and vision conversation. Right, and then we're going to develop a plan for identifying and mitigating risk within a business. Now, I'm going to say this up front, right? Risk is everywhere, right? Risk is everywhere. Well, when you're in business, there is a certain financial cost to not being able to identify or mitigate, reduce that potential risk exposure. So we're going to start talking about that today and we'll follow up on it next week. But this is a time where you guys get to try to identify that. And if not, start researching so that you can better identify it ahead of really delegating dollars or money towards certain goals. All right, something that you definitely want to take into consideration. All right, with that being said, let's dive into our first section. And that's going to be this whole conversation around activities and milestones for financial leadership. Now, remember, I like to start with some polls, right? I like to get the conversation going. So let's do a quick poll question. Does your company have a defined mission and vision statement? So how many people out there already have that mission and vision locked up, ready to go, ready to share? Give you just a second. Now in this poll conversation, you are more than welcome to maybe put it in the chat box or just unmute yourself and share out. That works.
Not sure if you can see the chat.
No, I can't.
Okay, well, some have just started. Some say, nope, not yet. We've not got a yes, is my point.
Okay, good. That's what I was hoping for, gang, right? So it's really important that when you're talking about your money, right, that you are connecting it to what you're trying to accomplish. I believe in a certain type of priority in financial literacy. All right, and you'll hear me talk about this time and time again, but I'm just going to introduce it to you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. I know that seems contrary, right? It doesn't matter how much money you have. When you are spending and directing whatever resources you have in the right intended direction, that's the mission and vision, which you intend to create or the change that you're going after. When you direct resources effectively in those areas, you will essentially, just like watering a garden, you will grow what you intend to grow. If you are not clear what your mission and vision is, right, you might have an impact. It might be a positive impact, but it's almost like accidentally growing something, right? It's not as impactful. In fact, businesses that don't have a clear mission and vision statement, they have a hard time tracking or getting the support they need because of that unclarity, right? And so what we're talking about today is getting really clear about our intentions for our business and then starting to communicate that out, right? Trying to be very impactful and directing those resources, what needs to happen, what type of support you need to gather in order to accomplish what you're trying to build, right? What we talked about last week. Okay, so I'm going to challenge you guys, get really clear about that mission and vision. You might think it's just nice, right? Nobody cares. But from a very basic perspective, everybody cares. right? You won't accomplish what you set out to accomplish without being intentional and driving the energy forward in that direction. All right, so what is the vision for your business? We all wake up, right? We have these ideas. We're going to make money, we're going to change the world, we're going to hire people, we're going to make something better by what we are trying to accomplish in the business world. But remember, you have to be really clear about what that is. And so I've got some basic rules for you, right? One, just identify or answer this question. What is the vision for your company? Right? What does that look like? Now, vision's looking into the future, right? And trying to decide what you're going to accomplish. All right. So it might be that very big business, right? Or it might be that very small business. But remember, it's that Netflix film, right? What does it look like when you walk into your business? What does that look like to be a customer? What kind of impact are you going to have? You want to be able to see what that future looks like, right? And then identify, like, how big did you want to grow the company, right? What kind of impact did you want to make? And how are you going to measure that impact? Right, so maybe if I'm wanting to do a subscription-based company that provides a solution to healthcare problems, right? I don't know. I'm just pulling that out of thin air, right? So the impact I want to make, right, is to improve those subscribers' lives, making their life a little easier, a little less burden. What's the intent behind what you're trying to do? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're communicating that intent and we're measuring for that impact. Okay? All right. So now that you kind of are going to ask those basic questions and get a little bit more clear with that, remember the reason why you're doing this is because you're trying to communicate, you're trying to make that impact. And so what we're talking about today is taking that mission and vision and learning to communicate it and what I call the language of business, which is money. Okay. Money is the language of business. And if you're successful in being able to communicate your offering, right, your intent, then hopefully that means with the right management, you'll be profitable, right? But it starts with understanding how your mission and vision is going to translate to money or dollars. All right. And so not only are you telling your customers, for instance, our subscription-based health solution, how we're going to improve their lives, right? That money that's going to follow when we actually deliver, right? That's going to communicate as well, right? The more money you're making, the more you're on target with being able to accomplish that vision, to actually deliver and execute on that mission and vision. If it was weak, right, let's say we're not making money, right, we're not tracking, that means we need to retool, right? We need to re-explain, we need to re-communicate, we need to make sure they have the right offering on the table. Think about building into that cash inflow and outflow that we talked about last week, right? Money coming in. Remember when we talked about money coming in, we tried to understand our revenue. We started understanding that, we've got X number of revenue coming in and we've got expenses, some of which we control, right? And then we've got hopefully profit at the end. We're going to build on that concept. And how we're going to do that is by connecting what we call activities and milestones. Now, you might have remembered at the end of our time last week, there was a really good question that came up, and they said, I think it was actually Brett. He was talking about how do you make something really big? Like, let's say if you have a really big goal, right? How do you really know how to divide that up in this cash inflow and outflow and actually make that happen, right? And I said, oh, we talk about that, but we do that in the form of activities and milestones. Well, now let's go ahead and unveil that whole concept of activities and milestones. All right, so activities, let's start here. So I like this picture because it's so true, right? Like we each contribute, right? We're all a little piece of the puzzle. We're contributing. And oftentimes, the more people contributing, the faster we can get something done, right? But just like that puzzle, it all has to fit together, and we have to understand the other pieces that are in play and who might be supporting us. Same thing happens in the business world. All right, so activities are really what has to happen in order for business to generate revenue or to spend the money and to make things happen, right? To cover those costs and expenses, right? So it is the inflow and outflow defined. Right? So when you saw that little puzzle picture and people were putting the puzzles together, right? Everybody has to communicate what is the intent for the business, that overall picture. Each person's got their little role that they're playing. Activities is how you communicate to your employees or those individuals supporting your business on what their role is. And then just like on a big puzzle piece, right? You're the one that's connecting the larger vision as that leader. All right, so you're really giving those individual roles. So think of your assumptions, right? Your guesses, what you're trying to actually accomplish in that business as activities. All right, and I'm going to give you an example of this in a minute. And then I'd love to go ahead and have a few of you just kind of share out. We did that last week where we might be able to help connect some dots. So if you're unclear of what type of activities you should be focusing on to accomplish that mission vision, we'll work through that together. Okay. All right. So activities are understood, they're monitored, and we can project activities into the future. All right, so think about that. Activities you can identify, this is how you can tell your employees what their role is, right? We can understand better, work in those processes. Remember that process mapping that we talked about, right? We can monitor to make sure that we're tracking or we're getting the right results. But more importantly, we can project out what we think those activities will be in the future. Do you see how if you're trying to work with an employee and you're trying to help them understand their goals as it relates to that mission and vision, you're able to really focus on those activities, those goals, those little goals, their work, their roles, to help further define that. All right, so these activities are going to connect to the business operations, to the vision on how you're going to accomplish the vision, right? Activities are connected to your vision on the how. Now, as a leader, this is how you answer what needs to be done in order to accomplish that mission. All right. So the vision, how, like how are you going to accomplish this vision, right? You're going to connect it to that. But it's also what needs to be done in order to have the impact you're seeking. Right. Any questions on that so far? Because I feel like I just like to talk. So how about you guys?
We like to talk, but we're afraid to because you absolutely know what you're talking about and it's making sense. It is. I promise you got it nice and easy here, at least on my end. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead, speak up. She's giving you the right to jump in and have your say. See there? You
Okay.
absolutely are helping. So we'll continue on until you get so complicated we have to say, stop.
Okay.
Okay? Back up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's get into the details, right? So you got to break down your activities into tangible goals. All right, and so these are goals for each of these role players in your business. And this, again, remember, it actually ties back into those assumptions we talked about last week. It's the activities per day, per week, per month, per quarter, per year, right? So remember, we were talking about how you project forward and understand the type of incoming cash flow or outgoing cash flow. You had to guess, right? You had to guess. Well, now I'm going to say take that guess, divide it up into responsibilities, okay, or activities that need to be accomplished in order for you to meet that goal, right? And now we're talking the same language. We're just talking a language that allows you to communicate to others, like those employees or those third-party contractors, right? That allow for you to understand what needs to happen within the business. And they should match your financial assumptions. So last week in the training, I gave you like that just really quick viewpoint of a just kind of detailed month-to-month cash flow projection. And then I switched it up and I said, okay, this is what those financial assumptions that backtrack into that forecast look like. Right? Your activities should match those assumptions. Okay. Now think about it this way. The assumptions can be more broad. They can be like, I assume that this industry is going to grow this year and we're going to see growth of X%, right? That sounds really like good and awesome. But at the end of the day, that doesn't tell you how you're going to make that money, right? That doesn't tell your employees how they're going to help you make that money. Hence the need for activities, okay? So then you start talking their language on how they're going to help you be able to accomplish those goals, and those activities are going to be divided out. So remember, as we're explaining this information, I always like to make sure that I'm checking in with you and I'm giving you those assignments. All right, and I already know that Joel was on his assignments. He's been doing his homework. So I got more for you. Joel, here we go. Here's your check-in. These are the questions you want to ask yourself to really understand how to go forward, all right? First, what activities connect to your company's vision? Okay, so if I was doing a like Meals on Wheels, right? I'm going out to the seniors and I'm making sure they have food. All right. What are my activities that are going to connect to serving those elderly that need food? Right? That's obviously going to be the meals that are prepared and delivered to certain homes. So maybe the activities around that are going to be how many seniors, how many meals are prepared and how many seniors I can feed, right? Within a day per week. That simple explanation. But I want you to think about that for your business. Now then I also want you to challenge yourself. So as a leader, how can you use the activities to communicate to your team? Because I'm going to be honest with you. You can have all the business acumen in the world, okay? You can understand exactly what needs to happen for your business to be successful. But if you cannot translate that into coaching advice, right, for your team that's going to help you accomplish it, you have a net zero, right? You could be brilliant and have zero impact. But then the opposite can be true. If you know how to be a good leader and to communicate what needs to get done in order to achieve a mission, you don't have to have the most fanciest business degree out there, okay? You could be successful. It all translates to communication and what needs to be done. And so think of the activities as your ability to communicate to your team, coach them and lead them into achieving the mission and vision and what you're trying to accomplish, right? And then make sure you understand what are those details that are important for you to achieve your vision. Because remember, even if you come up with activities and they are easily understood by the team members, right? If you're not constantly checking in on that vision and making sure that you're getting to where you want to be, right? You could unintentionally waste money and water other areas that aren't going to actually get to where you want to be, right? And I think of that as business efficiency, right? You don't necessarily want to pay bills that you will have no benefit from or waste money or resources. Think about the fact that you don't want to have your employees doing tasks that don't translate to dollars and waste their time and your time, right? So your activities, tying directly into that activities and making sure you're getting out of them what you want to get out is critical. Now this is higher level stuff. Now it seems really simple, but you have this beautiful opportunity in front of you as you are getting out the gate that if you can be more in tune with your end result and making sure that your activities match that perfectly, you are ahead of the game. Okay. It takes some businesses 2 to 3 years just to be able to get to a level of efficient communication. If you can get there before, think of the impact that you can make at the soonest possible moment, right? It's gives me goosebumps. Just gives me goosebumps. All right, so here we go. So that's your check-in point. Remember, you get a copy of the presentation so you can look over this, make sure you're answering those questions. Well, let's dive into this whole little milestones. So at the end of last week, we talked about eating an elephant, right? Something really big. You have a really big goal. Maybe that's becoming like a blockbuster movie, right? These are what we're talking about. And how do you get there when you're starting out? And the answer was milestones. So what I want you to think about are, what are those milestones for your company? Ironically, I don't think a lot of people identify these, or at least they don't spend a lot of time trying to identify them. They might instinctively know certain milestones, but milestones are how you stay motivated, all right? Like, there's a lot of work in generating a business and coaching people, right? Like, I promise you, there's days you're going to wake up and you're going to be so lost in the weeds that you don't feel like getting out of bed. It's like, it's that depressing. It can get that depressing. So you got to celebrate something, right? You got to make sure that you're staying focused, you're staying motivated. And so your milestones are going to be your motivation pieces. All right, and so milestones connect to that bigger picture, what you're trying to accomplish. It helps you understand when you're on target, right? And so your mission statement, like what you're going to accomplish through starting this business, it connects to a big picture, right? Remember, the activities and those assumptions kind of help you understand how you're going to get to that big picture, but the milestones connect all those activities, right? All of it and the vision to the actual mission statement. Typically, your milestones are going to either be based in time, they're time based, or they're activity based. And they don't have to be super scientific, all right? I want you to understand, they don't have to be super fantastic. They could be silly, right? But as long as it attaches to that mission, right, that's great. You know when you've gotten there. And I'm going to give you some of these silly ideas, these esoteric kind of conversations in a minute with our example. All right, but before we get there, polling question. All right. All right. So do you have any defined milestones for your business? Let's talk milestones. Anybody got any milestones? I know I see Joel's head like, nope, haven't even thought about it, Rebecca.
I'm still seeing no's pop up, Rebecca. It sounds like you're asking the right questions and we're giving you the only answer that we have.
Okay, all right, so that's good. That's good, right? Because I'm going to get you to start thinking about it. All right, so you got to measure your milestones, right? So I like this too because you get to see the little dashboard. And I like the dashboard because it makes you think of activities and what you're accomplishing, right? But the financial dashboard is going to help you determine if you are reaching those points that you need to reach. All right. So you'll measure your milestones by identifying on a dashboard like activities that you want to accomplish, goals that you want to accomplish. And these are typically, and I'm just giving you a few, they could be different than this, all right, but just giving you ideas. You could see this in asset growth. So maybe you're going to say, hey, when I get to the 1 million revenue mile, right, I'll hit my milestone. Yeah, that's a good milestone. So it could be asset growth, right? Or it could be resource growth when I start doing business with Costco, right? Remember we were talking about Costco. When I do business with Costco and I become a vendor for them, I've reached my milestone, right? It could be resource growth. Or it could be client pipeline growth. When I get 1 million subscribers or views, right? Then I'll know that I'm reaching that goal to dominate social media. I don't know. Maybe that's your goal, right? But remember, you'll want to track it so that you can know whether or not you're on target or if you need to tweak and change things in order to reach that goal. Okay, so I want you guys to start thinking about financial dashboards as being able to track and see if you're on target for reaching that mission and vision. And just know that we're going to talk a lot more about dashboards next week, okay, because we're going to expand on the conversation. All right, so you guys will be challenged with setting up your own financial dashboard at the end of this series. All right, and I want you to start thinking about identifying specific mission-based goals. What are those missions? What are you going to accomplish? I'm going to end hunger for the homeless in my area, right?
That's a great goal.
That's a great goal.
Rebecca, just a quick ad, real quick. Somebody was asking about, well, would changing your transitioning from being a sole proprietor to an LLC, would that be a good milestone, or would
That
that be
would be a
considered?
good milestone. I like that. That's a great milestone. And the reason why it's a great milestone, I'm just gonna you guys probably already know this, but I'm going to just share on that, is because when one does do that, they're really stating that now they're structuring themselves for more growth, right? And that's a way that they can clearly separate themselves in a miscritication conversation. And we'll get to that towards the end of today, right? But they're also setting themselves to make more money, right? So I like that. That's a good one. Okay, good. All right. So outside of identifying specific mission-based goals, I want you to know when your business is going to do it. How do you know if you've met that goal, right? What does that look like to you, right? And it's going to, depending on what that milestone is, it could look different ways, right? And we'll explore that in just a minute with the example. And then what must happen, right? So again, what has to happen for you to meet that goal? Be very clear on what that looks like. All right, so I told you that I would give you an example. And so let's play with this, all right? And I remember, I'm going to take examples from the group because we learn more from each other than just Rebecca talking. All right, so here's our little example. We've got Maria, and Maria has worked in the beauty industry for over 5 years as a commission stylist for a high-end downtown salon. Maria is tired of working for others and has decided to take her savings and build her own small salon. Now, she's dreaming about this, right? She's playing the Netflix in her mind. Maria envisions having a boutique salon sought out by the high society wives, just like the reality show Real Housewives. No, I had one of these I based it off of a little lady that I know. Okay, so it's legit. They think this way. All right, 3 stylist friends are willing to join her as commission stylist, and her niece is willing to work part-time as a receptionist, taking appointments and supporting some light marketing duties. With a little hard work and support, Maria feels that her team can build a strong book of business, generating more money than what they had made at their last salon. Okay, so this seems really like short and sweet, right? Now, how do you connect activities and milestones to a situation like this? Well, let's do it. All right. So these are some ideas of activities that Maria can drill into. All right, so Maria has over 200 strong client relationships that she feels confident she can bring over to her new salon um, just with some simple marketing, right? Each of Maria's soon-to-be employees, so she's talked to her little, commission stylist friends, and they have an average of 75 strong clients, right? So there's 3 of them, so 3 times 75 equals 225 clients amongst the 3 of them. So here's the activities, right? So combined book of business is that 425, 200 from Maria, 225 from the other 3. So they feel strong that they can have a book of clients of 425 strong. Right, so the new salon will be open 5 days a week, 8 hours per day, so that's 40 hours per week. And each stylist, including Maria, can see an average of 8 clients a day. Right, so there's 4 of them, Maria and her 3 folks, right, working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that's 160 hours per week, right, and then 693 hours per month. All right, so they're looking at the average client ticket, right? And they believe that is $150 a ticket, right? So they're looking at how many people they can take per day, per month. They're looking at how much they can charge. And so they're coming up with an idea that they can make just over $100,000 per month. Right? You see how the vision, and I'm just going to go back real quick. The vision is a high-end salon, very boutique, right? Their clientele is going to be strong. Who's going to be working there? You can kind of see the bare bones. But the activities here that she's coming out really help her identify how she's going to build that book of business that's going to generate more revenue for them than what they previously made, and how she identifies that revenue. Right? How does she know? She's got to figure out the activities. This also, if you think about it, for her employees, she can say, I really need you to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? This is what I need you to work. And she can start to schedule and direct them and communicate with them. At the same time, she can turn around and continue this leadership conversation on how they're going to grow. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. So she knows that she's got to grow, right? So she needs to make sure that the pricing for the services is at least an average of $150 per client, if not more, right? There's that more conversation. So she can adjust the service pricing accordingly. She starts to see the ticket prices go below that, right? She needs to educate, lead to make sure the prices go up. Right? She can also structure those appointments to maximize those 8 clients per day per each stylist, right? So she might come back and say, you need at least 8 clients per day. That's leadership talking. Right? And new clients outside of the existing book of business will need to be reached. And so she figures that out by trying to identify the maximum client per day that they can work in the number of hours with the number of people, right? And so she's able to identify that, and she can actually grow it with her number of hours, an additional 268 clients per month. She can back into that number. Right. So with that being said, does everybody see how activities, right, can add additional color or context around a vision, right? And then help you be able to understand or start to track whether or not you're going to actually accomplish what you're setting out to accomplish. All right, and this stuff is not hard, all right? And that's what we're going to do in just a minute. I'm going to connect milestones, and then I want to reach out to the group, and we can start, like, literally, even if you're confused, don't worry, right? Most of us are. Right? You can throw out what you're trying to do, and then maybe the group, our combined knowledge, can come in and help you identify maybe activities that you can drill into, and then start to monitor to see if you can identify that mission and vision or accomplish it. Okay. All right. So let's talk milestones, right? Because this is where it gets more touchy feely, right? Less number based, more touchy feely. So let's talk about Maria's milestones. So remember her little example, what she wanted to accomplish. So let's say Maria says, all right, my first milestone is opening that boutique salon with 3 commissioned stylists, right? That's that's a milestone, right? Now, granted, to get to that open salon, she's got to sign a lease, she's got to get equipment, right? She's got to get her business license, a permit. There's a lot to go into that, and she hasn't even made any money. She's just spending money out the door, right? Sounds like a nightmare. But that is a milestone because she can celebrate with her team that they did it. They opened up the boutique, right? That is a very real milestone that they can reach and celebrate together, right? Second milestone, reputation for high society, well-known clients in the media, right? She wants to be associated to the Real Housewives. Right? So how does she do that, right? Like that in itself is a milestone. So however she reaches out to those people and tries to get on there, right? However they define, high society, they're going to want to connect to that. Maybe she's going to identify with certain like events, right? How many people are coming or stating that they got their services from her salon before some high society event? I don't know, right? But I can tell you that she can identify if she is written up in a fancy newspaper, right? Or she's been referred out to one of these clients, if she starts to figure out that reputation, that's something they can celebrate and monitor. That's another milestone. Right, number three, this is a fun one, and this actually plays more closely into the activities, is making each team member more money than they previously made in their old salon. So, that's why those activities are so important because they could go back and say, wow, the potential is over $100,000 per month. After we take out all our expenses, if you work that many clients, you could make this much money, right? They have the ability to understand the activities as it relates to that particular milestone, making each other more, financially solid than what they were before. That is another milestone that they can track and measure, and it actually is directly related to the happiness of each of those technicians, right? Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Because milestones, I told you, is more touchy feely, but is directly related to the vision. All right, team, I like that.
And Rebecca, I just think it's very clear the way that you've spelled it out. And I think everybody's pretty much understanding the fact that it's it starts with those dreams and the way that you express them, which is, of course, in your vision or mission statement of, how to get there is the breakdown of it. And that's what you've been really helping us to connect here. So I look forward to seeing how the rest of it goes. So don't think that they're sitting there sleeping just because their camera's not on. The truth is, I can already tell that everybody is really into this, either taking notes or probably just shy, not wanting to say anything. But the truth is, the milestones come from the heart of the company itself, making from your vision, and now you're breaking it down for us in a pretty good way. Joel, would you agree? Yeah, you can just shake your head. It's okay. I know you're looking for the mute
Yeah, I
button.
had to. Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Yeah, I actually had this little moment of brain, explosion because I always saw the milestones and vision as, it's like, okay, it's good to have, but it's kind of over the top and it's not really necessary. But here I am, just tying in what's mission and vision to the activities, and I'm visualizing activities such as employee manuals that talk like direct you into that message, and I'm just downloading everything that's in my head right now.
Like I
Good,
said,
awesome.
absolutely well done, Rebecca. Keep going. You're good.
All right, awesome, team. All right, so this is our check-in. Are you ready? So these are the questions I want you guys to think about, reflect on. This is your homework. What are your business milestones matching your mission? Right? So remember, I did that little pre-app for Maria for you so you can kind of see how that may be tied into it. Remember, milestones can be more warm and fuzzy. Think about you and your team having a party over this. Okay? Like, how are you going to know you got there, right? They get their first write-up in a high society magazine and they're going crazy over there in that salon for Maria. Right? So how does that translate to what you were trying to accomplish? Right? And when should your company reach those milestones? Right? So that's a little harder, right? So you got to think about like if I were to try to figure out when I've reached that mile, you're really trying to identify what you want to see. Right, so think about that. Even for something that's esoteric, like getting that news media write up for Maria, knowing that she's in high society, right? When are you going to reach that? I don't know, right? But you start to try to set some target goals. Think about the intent. Maybe she starts to see when awards are coming out, right? Or some type of recognition is coming out. And then she starts to drive her intent towards competing or being included or driving messaging. She only can really start to achieve those milestones when she's throwing some direct intent in that direction, right? And so you want to have an idea of how you know you'll reach that goal, because otherwise it would be pointless, right? You may never be able to measure it. And we want to measure these things. We want to celebrate them. So you've got to think about how you'll know when you reach that goal. All right, and then what will be on that financial dashboard? All right, so everybody here is going to have a unique dashboard. All right, so think of it like a vision board. I'm sure you've heard about that. Your dashboard is very much like your vision board. So what's going to go on there, right? How do you measure your success? How do you know when you've reached that level of success? Right, and we'll work more on that dashboard very, very soon. All right, with that, I wanted to take a moment and see if anybody from the group wanted to maybe digest a little bit on the milestones for their business, their activities and milestones. Who's still struggling with that and you want the group's collective wisdom to help you through it?
It's the shy factor.
Yeah, no worries. I'll give you another minute because I promise you, the last time I did this, there was such great wisdom that came from everybody on the team, right? And that person walked away and he was just astounded with the level of insight and thought that came out of the group. So, I mean, I understand if you don't need help, but I will tell you that the help can be quite profound when you allow yourself or open yourself up to it. All right, team. So remember, if you have questions later, you can bring them to part 3, okay? Bring them to part 3. We'll all be there to support you then.
Rebecca, I think this is an important thing that you really wanted us to participate in, and since nobody's doing it, may I jump in?
Yeah, come on.
And just, I just want to see how the exercise goes and see how it is. Not that the mission and vision statements have been clarified enough to bring a good foothold, but jumping anyway. Um, Business milestones matching your vision. If, for example, that movie making company is not anything less than real. However, it may not be quite Hollywood, the idea. The idea was to be able to instruct people, especially college students coming right out of college, and giving them a paid internship to actually learn how to open and run their own business of production. So the idea there is basically that simple. The hardest challenge that I had when I came out of college was getting that first job. So I'd like to create a bridge with the job that I have, or the company that I have, to allow them to come in, 3 to 5 at a time, no more, so that they can actually learn the instruction of doing the things they've already learned to do technically, possibly, whether it's creative writing and doing scripts or directing and producing, or maybe just audio, video, and lighting, working together in unison to create beautiful, you know, there you are in the square. But at the same time, what I want to do is show them how that can be transferred into their own revenue streams and actually accomplish something, hopefully, with whatever it is they have to say. Because what you're really talking about is storytellers. And that's the focus of the company, is creating better storytellers and hopefully encouraging them to tell better stories than the ones I see sometimes on Netflix, for example. But Netflix has some good ones, and of course, they have some other ones that are not so good. So just that's sort of the idea. So if that helps, how would you
Yeah,
make
sure.
milestones to open that if you don't have a studio? Because there's a lot of things that go along with this concept, including having your own offices for editing, a studio to play in, and of course, location equipment to go anywhere to do the storytelling.
I
And
love
go.
it. All right, we got a task team. Are you ready? We're going to help Brett. All
Yay.
right, so out of that, what would you identify as some milestones, right? So we see the big vision, creating a bigger company to be able to support um, young entrepreneurs, young, I guess, talent coming out of the college world into their first job or entrepreneurship endeavor. How would you start to define the milestones? Don't be shy. It's always easier to work on somebody else's stuff.
We have so much talent in this group. I know you guys can help. If not, I'll be stuck forever.
Well, I'm going to just name one. I would say, well, obviously, getting paid interns, right? Having money to pay interns would
Mhm.
be a big factor for this. So, finding a solution or having money set aside for a certain number of paid interns would be a milestone. What else?
About being recognized from like getting recognition from different institutions, colleges, that you are the source for those students.
I like that.
Recognition, that's great.
Mission. I'm going to add to that, Joel. What about having one of these storytellers or an interns have a successful hit, right? Where now we can celebrate, we've actually done it, and then everybody pulls around and celebrates that success. So maybe that's, I don't know,
That's a great idea.
Sundance or, they get
Sure.
something published. Maybe they even just get to PBS, but you're just
Right.
like, they did
Yeah.
it.
Somebody has just put in the chat box. I think increasing Google ranking based on reviews would also be a milestone.
Okay, I agree. So, especially if that was an important factor for you to get seen or to consider talent, right?
Hmm.
If talent doesn't know you're there, then you're not going to find those, award-winning people.
Right. And just to put it in perspective, the concept of making money and generating it to fund this concept is the company itself being a small production company doing commercials. So those are all mini stories to tell, when you think about a good commercial. So you can do it whether it's with special effects or whether it's a heartwarming moment. I mean, literally, commercials can touch almost every aspect of storytelling.
I like that. I like that. So, yeah, maybe on that front, getting a commercial published, on whatever level. All right, so now that we've got a couple of milestones, we could probably keep on building on that, right? Acknowledgement for the program, multiple institutions wanting to bring the program on because they see the success. We could build on what that looked like for your entire mission, making sure it was complete. But now we'll just take one factor, one milestone, and we'll start drilling into a few of those activities, right? How do we know when we reach that milestone? Right?
Right.
What
Well,
activities do we need to get to that milestone?
like the recognition was a write up in the paper about somebody doing the short film and having it aired maybe at a local theater, even. That could
Hmm.
be an easy way to kind of go that route, I think.
Yep, agreed. And how about like getting paid interns, right? So maybe that would be finding a successful sponsor,
Right?
right? Or and it may be two sponsors. Maybe the call to action would be getting X dollar amount of sponsorship money from vendors, private donors to be able to make the program happen, right? And so you would want to drill into that number. So maybe for the university, they have X dollar amount per hour that's needed, so many number of hours, paid intern, taxes would cost whatever. And so maybe you've got to post that. Job board placement, right? Maybe there's a screening or vetting that's going to be needed. So you need to understand what that screening or vetting process is going to be. And because you know that you're going to be basing your success or your milestones on recognition, maybe there's a certain quality of talent. Maybe you want to divide that talent up into certain groups so you don't take too much of one on and not be able to reach another. Just being able to understand the milestones can help you identify the activities and further vet the other milestones. And then you're just going to layer on to that some time-based requirements, right? So maybe we want to have this money for this internship by, I don't know, January 1st when the spring semester kicks off, right? You got X number of dollars. And maybe you're going to, knowing that you've got a X number of dollars, you need to make so many calls to potential sponsors per week in order for you to meet those goals. Right now, we're going to start to define the activity so what you as a leader can say, you know, Maria, I need you to pick up the phone. We need 3 new sponsors this week. We need to reach out to X number of people so that we can try to collect this dollar amount. And maybe there's like a, one of those big like checks behind the scenes, right? We got to give out this big check or
Yeah,
this,
right?
yeah. And then you've got some idea, but all along the way, remember, as you're reaching those milestones, you're celebrating with your team, you're communicating with your team, and those are the activities centered around it. Does that help everybody?
Yeah,
See how that,
and Joel, I think that answered his comment there about saying, would an activity like finding sponsors also be a milestone? And you just sort of clarified that in that execution. So thank you.
yes. All right. Awesome. All right. Good job, guys. So you see how you can kind of start to make sense of the madness,
Yeah,
activities, and milestones. And then ultimately, we translate that back into the cash inflows and outflows, checking back against those assumptions, right? Okay. So we're going to talk real quick about understanding risk factors in your business. I like this, right? Because life isn't always so smooth. Life is messy and knotted, just like this poor guy is about to get into. So have to we have to understand what is out there that could jeopardize our business. So I like to start off with just the basic truth, and that is no business operates in a silo. Okay, not even silo businesses operate in a silo. All of us are interwoven and connected in some way. And so you have to understand how the different types of businesses or industries that operate around your business maybe take on risks that will impact you down the road, right? Risk exists for every single business. It doesn't matter, right? Insurance companies have risk too. Right, so areas of risk can include, but also can expand from here, right? Competition, innovation, substitutes. Think about that banana milk at the grocery store. It never existed before. And then you've got your economic risk. Oh my goodness, we've been swimming in that for about 18 months now. Political risk all around us as well. Social risk, the whole like cancel culture. Social risk is everywhere. I know when you start to think about risk, it's a little depressing. I'm just gonna say it's real depressing, right? It is just horrible, horrible. But I always like to just bring a little lightness into the dark, right? And I do love Nat Han, and he has a saying, right? Thanks to impermanence, everything is possible. So I want you to sit with that, right? As we can get down this risk and something could happen out of nowhere. I want you to also remember, just like the Chinese word for crisis, it can mean opportunity as well as risk, right? Opportunity always exists as well. And so you can look at this whole risk situation and you can see opportunity to do things differently, opportunity to do things better, opportunity to improve your bottom line if you incorporated or sourced out different type of vendors, or incorporated technology solutions or AI solutions. The fact that things are constantly changing is not only frustrating, it's also very good for us if you were constantly scanning the horizon, trying to identify risk, mitigate it, and make the most of it. All right. So I want you guys to think about how you currently evaluate and look for risk. So how do you do this? And a couple of ideas around it is there's industry trade journals that are constantly covering this topic, right? Giving you ideas of new innovation, substitutes, new ways of doing business. They always write about this in those trade journals. You've also got access to business networking groups. I especially like non-homogeneous networking groups, right? And so that means not the same type of industry or business, because that opens your eyes and your mind up to different types of solutions or different ways to maybe accomplish the goals. And that's part of being able to share today, right? I don't have any experience in movie businesses, right? But I don't have to. I have experience in other types of businesses. And so for Brett's standpoint, I'm going to give him some really fresh out of the box ideas, right? And hopefully that might be even more beneficial than coming at it from a very square box standard viewpoint, right? You get more ideas. That's the whole diversity is better conversation. Right, then competition research. So figure out who your competitors are, research them, figure out how they're doing things, how you might be able to do them better. You want to pull clients or customers or future clients and customers. Trade shows are great when you can actually get in there. Got a little bit of blockades right now, but down the road, having conversations with people that are decision makers, that typically happens in trade shows, right? And then just subscribing to news feeds or social media. We've got a wide door open to us right now because of COVID-19, where you have the ability to get online training at very little to no cost and get really in tune with different type of ideas or information that may not have been accessible to you before, right? Huge benefit there. And then I want you to answer the question, how do you mitigate risk? So you're going to do some research and you're going to review the risk for impact, right? How could it impact you? What would you need to do, especially from a financial standpoint, to, you know, reduce any financial exposure or losses to that risk? Identify potential benefits or threats. Seek out advice, right? So go and sign up with SCORE or talk to other mentorships around you. Your SBDC advisors can connect you to different resources. And then make changes within your business. And that's the hardest part. I'm going to be honest with you. Making changes within the business to mitigate risk, it is the hardest part of being a business owner. Change is not easy, especially when you're trying to divert something that's not causing you pain right now. Okay? But I'm promising you that if you're able to consistently see and avert risk, you're going to be much better off than a lot of other businesses, probably huge amounts of businesses or peers within your group. So where can you go to find support mitigating risk? Well, once is your insurance agent, right? I feel like I'm on my phone with my insurance agent all the time, throwing ideas against them. But mitigate risk through insurance, right? Your accountants can help you. Maybe they can identify some new tax strategy or a way to monitor or overcome some type of financial issue. right? An attorney, maybe there's a new contract, maybe a new process that you can put in play to support you. Bankers, right? Bankers are great. They see and hear everything. Now, they won't be able to directly tell you, right? Maybe who's having problems, but they can certainly share some insight that might help you avoid risk. Um, Obviously, some type of mentor. Now, I like to put seasonal mentor or seasoned mentor because there is a mentor in your life for every time, right? And so that mentorship may change over time, and you may need to take on different mentors that have a certain level of experience. But think about finding somebody who has the type of experience you need or close to it and talking with them. And then creating a board of advisors around you, right? We call those round tables. Um, you might actually have an official board or an unofficial board, but having others that can look at the problems or look at your challenges and at least stay with you for a period of time to see you through certain issues can be highly advantageous. All right, so we're rounding the end of our time here, and so I just want to go ahead and just come up with a quick summary, right? So things to remember. So after today's class, connect your daily activity with your bigger vision, right? So this might be the first time you've challenged yourself to do that, right? But think about daily activities and how that translates to that mission and vision. Now, identify when activities are not meeting your mission and vision. All right, they just might be part of what you do. You may not have really explored whether or not they're providing much benefit or even monetary benefit for you. It might be a loss, right? This is your opportunity to explore what's not working and take it out of the mix, clean it up, right? Always keep that bigger mission and vision in mind. Please, 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 right? You do not want to inadvertently water the wrong grass. You want all your efforts to achieve your mission and vision. Don't get distracted. Don't waste resources. Milestones are a great way to keep your project and your team focused and in tune with the mission, right? So think those milestones are things you can celebrate. Those milestones are things that you can, communicate to your team that you want to achieve. And the best part about it is if you can communicate it, you can achieve it, right? It's those that can't or poorly communicate that often struggle. Right, develop that financial dashboard. So I introduce you to the concept. We're going to talk a lot more about it next week, right? But I want you to start thinking about what needs to be on there. Just start putting little pen drops in that. Remember, risk is everywhere, so constantly evaluate and mitigate the risk, right? And that risk is out there, so the sooner you can identify it and get around it, the less likely it's going to prove to be a financial challenge for you. Remember, not Han, right? Change is inevitable. You cannot lock yourself away from change. It's always there. So be open to change and find the benefits in it, right? It's not always a disaster or chaos. It can be an opportunity. And then find support and mentorship. Maybe that's one thing that you're going to put out there for this week is you're going to try to look for a mentor that might be able to give you insight on what you're trying to build, right? That would be a challenge. All right, with that being said, question and answer time. All right, so we got a little bit of time to talk and try to answer questions, clarify anything for the group. And then remember, my name is Rebecca Schultz.
Hey.
And I love having these conversations.
Well, thank you again, Rebecca, like always. And now that we go to Q&A, if you have some questions, please drop them into the chat box. If you're too shy to just take your microphone off, which you are also more than welcome to do, just drop the questions in and I'll be happy to reread them for you. And I appreciate it. I want to stall for a moment while people are gathering their thoughts and just say, thank you, Rebecca, because mission and vision statements, whenever I speak with clients, they always tell me the same thing. I don't think that's very important. And it's interesting because the way I've always described it is your mission is what you really created this company for. What was the idea behind it? And if it's as simple as make money, well, it's a little shallow, but okay, that's your thing. But the vision is how to achieve your mission. And that's where you look into the future, as you were saying, and you really clarified that. So thank you so much for being able to say that that's still the basis and foundation of why you started a business anyway. And now it's how do you turn that concept into, well, money, like you said, because without money, it's not really a business, is it? It's more like doing something, a hobby.
A
And
hobby.
it's okay. Big difference. So
Yep.
thank you. Anybody have questions? Jump in if you have any.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
I have this general direction of what I want to do and what my mission vision are, but I also want to be as uh, methodical as possible, just almost machine-like into what I want to do and how I want to do it. And sometimes I find myself, I have this idea of what I want to do, but when I look at it, it's too broad, and I want to be more specific. But when I go to be more specific, it loses that vision or mission because of what I think I know about what I should do. So I don't know how to approach, uh, that
I love
risk
that.
in letting myself go towards that mission or staying safe.
I love that. So that you know what, I'm going to tie that conversation, Joel, into some advice that I gave Brett at the end of the last class, right? He's like, because honestly, mission statements, they're supposed to be somewhat broad, right? So
Mhm.
when you say that, that is right on point. That's how the mission is. It's broad, it's concise. And then how you know that you're reaching that mission statement is of course the vision statements, right? So that's and those visions, although it seems to be more connected and directly related to how you're going to achieve your mission, the vision statements will change over time, right?
Right.
But they will typically get more defined as you find your footing or you start to see where you're getting more traction. So I don't want you to think that, you're kind of locked into something. I've known so many businesses that have been open for so long. One, super impressive. They've been around for over 75 years, right? Just talked to him the other day. It's a roller skating rink. All right, now, how many times have you guys been roller skating? And this year alone, I've been roller skating maybe 3 times. I have small children, right? But if you're sitting here saying, that's kind of outdated, I will tell you that that mission and vision for that business just got an upboot. Like he just upgraded it and he has changed his vision, but he's changed it in one that is more, I could say community based than what it had been and more specific activities, right, that are more relative to the current time. So good businesses, no matter how old they are, they may still have the same mission, right? But that vision could slightly change based on what they're seeing. So don't get hung up on that. Just think about the activities and the milestones, right? You're going to choose some milestones for right now for what you're doing, right? Think about the vision and how that ties to those milestones that you want to achieve today, not maybe
Okay.
10, 15 years from now. That could potentially change, but for today. And then just start connecting that to your activities and what you want to see. And that will hopefully alleviate some concerns. Now, I'll be honest with you because again, remember I talked about how we don't operate in a silo. Things are constantly changing around us. We are constantly scanning the future for change. Change is everywhere, and your entire business might be uprooted. Like if you were a taxi driver, right? Uprooted when Uber came on the scene, right? And that's fine if your mission was to help people get home safely, right? Okay, right? You can change out how you're going to achieve the mission with a different vision. So did that answer the question, or do you need to go into more detail?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good.
Well, we have another question that's also good. That was a good question, Joel. Thank you so much for sharing and asking. When do you know that the company is ready for external funding versus just continuing to generate revenue and more profits to pay for your potential growth?
Oh, I love this. Okay, so
Yeah, good
great
question, right?
conversation. So I'm going to answer this question way differently than what you may expect me to answer it.
I've learned not to expect things from you. I just go, wow, every time you say something. So it's all good.
Okay, so
No expectations.
external investment becomes really important when you have lined up what you're trying to accomplish, right? So think about your mission and vision, what you're trying to accomplish. Think about those goals that you're trying to accomplish. And you start to realize for you to be able to reach your goals and your milestones in a time frame that you need to reach them. Okay. Now, money is always in this conversation, right? Because that's the language of business. So I'll come back around to the money side in just a minute. When you know that you need to go ahead and get money or investment to reach these milestones or goals, that's when you're ready for investment dollars. But you can't be somebody who says, I want to I want to go to the moon or I want to go to Mars tomorrow, right? And then really not have a solid financial plan on how you be able to return the money back to your investors, right? You have to be reasonable on that end. So that's where you work out your forecast, right? So remember, in our forecast, we talked about that last week. We're talking about this week. We're going to continue talking about it next week. But essentially, the forecast or the projection is going to be based on what our incoming and outgoing cash flow is going to be based on the activities and what we're trying to accomplish. We're going to come up with a set of, guesses, assumptions, and we always want to make sure that we are really solid with what we believe the ending result, that net income, what's left over after we've made money and had to spend money to make that money. When we've got a positive net income, right, and we know that that net income is going to be solid, that we're going to be able to pay back those investors, right? And now the only issue is getting the money and making sure that we can accomplish the mission and vision. When that is your only problem, that's when you're ready for outside investment. That's where you can actually have the conversation. What I see right now, I've explained that. What I see time and time again is where business owners are are trying to put the cart before the horse. Okay. They're trying to go ahead and find the money before they can understand how they're going to make the money. And they're trying to somehow loosely weave in this goal, which is unclear. Like you're not going to get anywhere that way, right? Investors want to know how you're going to return the money. If you can't say that or really be able to explain how much you're going to be able to make to return the money, you have no place in that investment conversation. All right. You're way too early for that conversation. And most of the time that's where people end up having to self-fund or bootstrap is because they haven't figured it out yet, right? They haven't figured it out. Oftentimes, when they've finally got that product that they've got out there and they've tested and the market wants it and they've got some sales, then they've fallen and gotten back up. They've figured it out. That's when they have more history to be able to explain to the investor their ability to generate a real profit. But I'm telling you right now, that's not necessarily the case if you can come up with a clear communication and that ties into that mission and vision and what you're actually offering. Any questions on that?
No, so that's actually tying into a good business plan, period. All of the aspects of a good business plan and showing these external lenders that you have a plan and that it works connected to your financials, which back that up. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got it.
Well, great. And you're welcome. The person said, great, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that to you. As always, this is a fantastic conversation. It's going to get even deeper. If anybody has anything else they want to say, you have 20 seconds to jump in because I have some other things to get to here shortly. And Rebecca, do you have any closing remarks you want to let everybody know?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to go ahead and have next week's conversation with you. But I do want to let you know that it is important that you have benchmarking. So if you have not received a copy of your financial benchmarks for your business industry, please go ahead and put that in the chat box for Brett. I'll make sure that that information is made available to you ahead of next week's conversation. If you don't ask for it, I won't know you need it. So even if you have to shoot an email to Brett afterwards, right? Try to hit me up to get that information before next week. And you'll want it because we're going to dive into answering those questions, right? And then going or drilling into more of that benchmarking conversation, right? So it's more about changing it from what you're building and how you're going to get there to how you actually get there. And so
Right.
I want to make sure you've got that detail so that you'll be able to follow along.
Fantastic. Well, as Rebecca just said, if you need to, please reach out to me personally. That's fine, or through the chat, and I'll be happy to make sure that she gets that for your benchmarks as well for all of the homework she gave you. I hope some of you will participate because I think it'll be beneficial for all of us to do that. And with that said, I just want to say thank you so much again. And I'm about to let you know that she is also coming back very soon. As you can tell right here, she's at August 31st. Rebecca is going to be back with part 3 of this series, Money Smart Startup Businesses. And we're looking forward to that. Thank you again. And tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, August 25th. How to Get Knocked Out Testimonials with Ashley Cook is coming. And we've decided that because you are so amazing, as you could tell, if you go to our website, you're going to find out September 7th, 13th, and 14th is full of great information. 14th being Lorna Kibbe and all the rest being from Rebecca Schultz. We have creating a bankable loan proposal, part 1 and 2 coming up. And that's going to be, I imagine that's going to be pretty detailed and really trying to get the nuts and bolts for those of you that are ready for that external support for funding. And Rebecca's going to show us all how to put that together. And we thank you so much for that. Remember, you can visit our website at the SBDC. And we're happy to get an advisor for you. And we are, of course, sponsored. And I want to just take a moment to tell everybody some of those sponsors that are coming up or that we have is Small Business Administration, of course, the state of Texas, North Central SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College. I also want to remind everybody that you will be receiving a survey right after this. Please let us know what you think about the training that's coming your way and be candid about it because we're looking to provide the best support we can and training for everybody. And since we've gone through all of that that's coming up soon, if you have any questions, again, don't forget to just drop them in. We want to thank everybody for attending today. And thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next time and have an amazing week.